first day they'd issue the diaries. And so you were always told in radio, Thursday you have to do your best show, get your best guests. And I'm sure it was all bullshit. I tell you, I'd rather be in television with ratings. I don't know how exact the science is in television, but in radio it was absolutely kooky.
Well, don't they have these boxes now in television?
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
But with radio, it's always been really bad. Radio ratings have just been, in my mind, like who knows, maybe they're the most accurate things in the world, but I hear these crazy stories about diaries. So in radio, they had no way to take the ratings, except they would tell people, we'll pay you $1 a day to fill out a diary. Now, you can imagine. And they go, and if any broadcaster ever mentioned the diaries on the air, you would be put below the line. Remember that?
Right. You got penalized.
You got penalized. Your ratings didn't count. So you were in dreaded fear of mentioning these diaries. And so, you know, I would sit at home and go, oh my God, Thursday I got to plan a big show. I gotta sweep the quarter hour. I've got Arbitron diaries. And they would say there'd be 10 diaries that would represent millions and millions of people.
Right.
And I know in my own personal life, I am so bad. I've tried to journal a bunch of times.
Horrible.
If I get to that journal once a month, I'm lucky. So I can imagine.
I try.
That whole big $1 a day thing and then I'd be sitting at a radio station in Hartford. And now, mind you, my entire career depended on getting ratings. I would get a fan letter, and someone would say, Howard, I have one of those Arbitron, or I have 4 of these Arbitron diaries. And they'd say, how do you want me to fill them out? Now, I have been so indoctrinated over the years to immediately report this. Here's a fan trying to help me out.
And you got to turn him in?
Turn him in. I was, oh my God, I go to my program director. Listen, I've been contacted. I am not getting involved in this because literally you'd lose your job and there'd be a scandal. And I didn't want scandal. I wanted ratings the old fashioned way. I wanted to earn them. And then I would sit there and go, those scumbags across the street at the opposing radio station, they're probably getting letters like this and they're filling out their diaries left and right. And then I found out there was a special place like Arbitron Jail where they would get these diaries. And if they saw a diary where somebody filled out that they listened to you 4 or 5 hours a day, that they knew immediately it was a fake. And then they come after that person, and then they come after you, and this is what I'd hear. And I tell you, you'd be shitting in your pants over this whole imaginary situation. And who even knows if any of it was true?
Right. Because
you don't
we used to have the same scare tactics beaten into us about the FCC and those laws.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, and even my life has been regimented around the fact that morning drive time radio is 6 to 10 in the morning. And you wonder, why did it become 6 to 10 in the morning? And I heard stories that this and that. It was as arbitrary as the rating service Arbitron needed to break up the day. So they called morning drive time, 6 to 10 in the morning. There was no science behind it. It wasn't as if they did a survey and said, well, most drivers are on the road at this point. Who knows? Maybe most drivers are on at 7 in the morning. Who knows? Who fucking knows? But I just figured they had some sort of science behind it.
They did it scientifically.
Well, it was crazy because 6 to 10 was morning drive. 10 to 2 was midday, they called it. And then, or 10 to 3. And then 3 to, no, it was 10 to 2. And then 2 to 6 was considered afternoon drive, which, if you think about it,
that's crazy.
Who gets off work at 2 o'clock? And this is what I was on NBC from 2 to 6. No, then they put me on 3 to 7. And then I went, oh no, I'm not even getting my own
drive time.
No, I'm not getting my own ratings. I'm helping the night guy and I'm helping the afternoon guy. The midday guy. I mean, it was crazy. And these ratings rule your life if you're a radio guy. I mean, they literally kept me up at night. Oh my God, the ratings are coming out. And the worst part of it all, unlike television, where at least you get the ratings the next day. So it seems like something of a science. We would get the ratings a month or 2 or 3 later. When I first got in radio, we had to wait 3 or 4 months for the radio ratings. Then they had a thing called these little mini ratings that give you a monthly. It was called, which, by the way, was always wrong. Don't worry about the monthlies. They average them out, and they drop out your lowest month. So you're losing your lowest month. I go, what kind of math is this? It was completely crazy, and I'm living my life by this. My family eats based on this. And I said, this is insane. And, it's nothing you can control. You can only hope for the best, that someone, somewhere, is paying close attention to these diaries and measuring the thing properly. Now, knowing what you know about business, take a look around you at work. How many of those workers you think over at Arbitrum are really sitting and obsessing over these diaries and making sure they counted each and every one the right way? It was insanity. Absolute insanity. You ask me why I'm crazy. You ask me why I did the things I did on radio. I mean, I was out of my mind. I said, how am I going to have a career based on this wacky kind of math and science? Oh, it was absolutely maddening.
But it did work for us.
It did. It did. I used to go on the air and compliment the rating service because, I was so afraid that they wouldn't count my ratings.
Right. They'd get angry and shortchange you.
And then the worst of all was the ratings would come out, and then the program director would say, I'm going to Annapolis. Annapolis is where all the diaries were kept, that all the people filled out. And the program directors got, it's almost like visiting the FBI. They got special passes to go to Annapolis and count and look and read the comments.
Read the comments. That was the big deal, yeah.
And I remember the program director would get themselves together for the big, sometimes the sales manager would go too, or the general manager, and they're going to Annapolis to do the analysis. Sometimes they'd even bring a consultant with them, and they'd all come back. And you'd be sitting there, what are they going to say in these diaries? And they'd come back and sit you down. Well, we read that they don't like when you do Mama Look a Booba Day, and they don't like it. I go, really? Well, you have to, and when you say this, and they don't like that you don't know the name of the high school, and I go, really? Oh, they write it down, and oh, my God. And the program directors tried to pretend like they understood what was going on in Annapolis at the rating service, and the whole thing was just insane. It was insane. And you would drive yourself insane. Because, again, imagine your job depends on these ratings.
And the people who are writing in the diaries don't know anything.
What if there was a mistake and I get fired? I mean, really, it's a career ender.
But why were they so intent on listening to the comments of people who were just sitting at home?
I don't know, but they were, because they're the people who fill out the diaries.
But they didn't know anything.
No, didn't matter. They were like gods, these diary filler-outers. And you got to figure anyone who had time to fill out a diary was pretty loserish. I mean, I got a job. I don't have time to fill out a diary. I would have thrown it right in the garbage. This is unbelievable. I remember one radio station was out. One of the DJs that worked with me came to me and said, my family got like 7 diaries. I said, oh, my God, you've got to report this. And he said to me, I'm not reporting it.
Really?
Yeah. This guy was making a play for the big time. I think he was looking to move right to New York. And I think his ratings were still shitty with his 7 diaries. But, then you get back to notes. Oh, they love when you rub your balls against the microphone. Okay, let's all rub our balls against the microphone for the next 7 days. It was crazy. Then we'd be in big meetings at the radio station. Program director said us now, on Thursdays, we are starting a new contest. And you will have to do the contest at 7:40 a.m. I go, I'm stupid. Well, why 7:40 a.m. exactly? What? Don't you know 7:40 a.m. Thursdays are the most important diary placements? We know that from our research. Really? How come we have such shitty ratings if you have so much research?
You haven't really done anything with the ratings all this research.
How about you play a good record, motherfucker?
And just do that all the time.
Yeah. After you play one good record, play another good one. How's that? That's my plan. It was crazy. And then, of course, they tell you, here are the records you will play, especially during ratings. I said, well, aren't we always kind of in ratings? Because if we're not actually having ratings, we still have to hold on to our... Shut up! Well, so then they come out with their music list. And I'm saying to myself, now my career depends, not on me, on whether Journey can capture the imagination of enough people at 7:40 a.m. on a Thursday. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, and you will play an up-tempo record at 7:45, followed by a slow tempo, and they give you the list. And I'd look at this list, and I'd say to myself, now, I'm not a program director, but I hate this song. You know, whatever it was. Like we were, playing Give Me 2 Steps, Give Me 3 Steps, or whatever the fuck that Leonard Skinner thing was.
Give Me 3 Steps.
Yeah, and I was just like, gee, I didn't hear that yesterday like 7 times. And I would sit and change the music because I said, if my career depends on this, I'm pretty sure they're wrong, even though they have all that research on the music. I don't want to hear this song. How could anybody else want to hear it? And, once in a while, the program director would come in. Did you play? You didn't play all your records this morning. I go, I know, I tried to get to it. I couldn't fit it in because you must play these records. And my paranoia would run deep because who knew if she knew what she was doing or he knew what he was doing? These program directors, they come and go like the wind. One day they're there, one day they're not. Now I'm listening to another guy. It's crazy. Whole career is nuts. If somebody, this is, by the way, my lecture. If a broadcast school wants to hire me to,
they should record this.
Yeah, record this because this is going to be your life. My life. This is why I'm neurotic. This is why I used to. You talk about OCD. I would tap on inanimate objects, place my fingers over them a certain way to somehow influence the ratings. That I would have big ratings if I touched the tissue box on the right-hand corner. And you say, Howard, how could you get into that? It's so superstitious. It's because I was being driven insane by the system, by the man, the white man. There were no black people. Must be the white man. He must have set this up. I was being driven insane because I wanted a successful career. And I knew I could tell by the reaction and the community that things were going on out there. Would the ratings reflect it? And would my program director know what music to pick? And you will go insane. You'll go insane. And not that you know any better. It's just that you know about probably the same as the program director.
Well, if they're listening to a guy filling out a diary, anybody should be program directing.
Absolutely. Get a guy with a diary to be the program director. You're right. He seems to know what people want.
They're going to study what he said.
I'll tell you, when I think about this crazy mayor in Toronto.